सिद्धांत सरस्वती भूषामी प्रोपाधि जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव की जय नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय प्रेम से गौ श्री कृष्ण प्रभु नित्यानंद से अद्वैत गदाधर शिवास आदि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण को गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरिवर्धन की जय वृंदावन धाम की जय नवद्वीप धाम की जय स्वामी भक्तवृंद की जय गंगा माई की जय यमुना माई की जय तुलसी देवी की जय भक्ति देवी की जय स्वामी तो भक्तवृंद की जय All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So once again, we are happy to join with all the devotees as we continue our virtual Sangha, either through Zoom or Facebook. So I'm Prabhupada Das from Georgetown, Guyana, the Hare Krishna Study Center. We'd like to take this opportunity once again, welcome each and every one of you. And this evening session is special as we had a little warm-up, I will say, last Wednesday on Japa. And this Wednesday evening here in Guyana is very special for us to have a very special personality with us. He was born in 1950, came in contact with the Hare Krishna movement in 1969, 70, joined, became initiated around 70, 71, first and second initiation. His Grace would have served in many, many capacity. He is known for his workshop. Previously, he served as temple president, book distributor. He gave Japa seminars, forgiveness course on humility, vows, and in relationship and marriages. Sankirtan leader, college preacher, interactive workshop, retreat, counseling. He's known for his
bathroom cleaner.
He's known for his special music and recording, and many of us would have, from the beginning when we joined, heard his and continue to hear his Brahma Samhita playing in the deity room while the deities are being bathed and dressed. And of course, he have the touchstone training. So like that, His Grace Mahatma Prabhu would have continuously served our wonderful Srila Prabhupada ISKCON for over 50 years, continuously, non-stop. It's give us great pleasure to welcome His Grace Mahatma Prabhu on our forum here this evening. to conduct with us a very special Japa session during the pandemic, how to maintain, how to increase in Japa while the world is suffering from coronavirus. Case keep going up all the time. Countries keep locking down and open up and lock down again. And our temples also are being affected. Devotees' lives are being affected. So without any further ado, I'd like to let us all in our own corners while we still unmute. While we're still muted, of course, we can loudly say Haribol. Haribol! Hare,
Haribol!
Hare. Thank you
Kuranga.
very much, Mahatma Prabhu. Please go on. Over to you.
Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale. Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Shamini Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine. Nirvisesa Sanyavari Paschatya Dasatarine. So we came to Guyana, I think, I don't know, 10 years ago? 12 years ago, do you remember?
Yes, 10, 12 years ago, you were here. You did Japa retreat and forgiveness course.
Yeah, we did both. One time we came and did Japa. One time we came, we did forgiveness. So it's been a while, so I've had time to practice my Japa and teach it. So I want to tonight teach a few things which are very, very basic and simple, but they're tremendously helpful. So one of the main complaints devotees make is that when they're chanting Japa, they're not present, their mind is somewhere else. If our mind is somewhere else, that means basically our whole existence is somewhere else. So we're chanting, but we're not really connecting as much as we'd like to. Now, sometimes we connect better than others, and sometimes there's so much going on in our mind that we're not really present to the holy name. And you may remember that sometimes Prabhupada would talk about traveling at the speed of mind and how yogis could travel at the speed of mind. They could be in one place and immediately be in another place as fast as you could think about being in another place. They would travel that speed. So an example, if I think of the moon right now, I'm actually on the moon. Think of the sun, I'm on the sun. I think of Guyana, I'm in Florida. I'm in Guyana now. You think of Florida, you're in Florida now. So the mind travels very quickly. And so the point is when the mind travels that way, let's say right now, some of you have been to Alachua and you're seeing me and you're thinking of Alachua. So even though you're physically in Guyana, at that time when you're thinking of Alachua, you're actually in Alachua. And we have a phenomena called daydreaming, where people are not paying attention to what's in front of them. Students do this sometimes. They daydream. They just look out the window and think, oh, I'd like to be somewhere else, or I don't want to be in this class. I'd like to be doing something else. Or they could be daydreaming about being in America or Europe or Mayapur or Vrindavan, like that. So that's happening when we're chanting. That's probably the biggest complaint I hear from devotees, that I'm not hearing the mantra, my mind is going somewhere else. So I want to teach you something today that is tremendously helpful. And what I realized is that when we chant, there has to be a detachment from our life. There has to be some shift. And if we don't detach or make that shift, then we tend to just be thinking about all the things we were thinking yesterday when we start chanting. Even though early in the morning, we may be thinking, oh, I have so many things to do today, so much unfinished business, so many unresolved problems. Even it could be trying to resolve a philosophical issue, wondering, I heard one class, one devotee said this, I heard another class, some devotee said something contradictory, I'm thinking about it, I'm chanting. It's nice that we're thinking of philosophy, but I've disconnected from the chanting. So chanting is a relationship with Krishna. And the reason it's a relationship is because Krishna is present when you're chanting. You're present when you're chanting. So if you're present, I mean, you are present, but you may not be present, as we're saying. But the holy name is present. You're chanting the holy name, so there is a relationship. So if we're not present to that relationship, then we're not really chanting properly, and we're not really getting the full benefit. So before you chant, whatever is going on in your life, you have to mentally detach from. You want to be in the consciousness that now for the next hour or two, however long I'm going to chant, I just put things aside. Because there's always the tendency while we're chanting to do something else or think about doing something else. And doing something else or thinking about doing something else is almost the same. I'm doing it, I'm distracted. But if I think about doing it, I'm also distracted. So if we can put ourselves in the consciousness that now when I'm chanting, this is all I'm supposed to be doing, nothing else. It's kind of like the whole world shuts off. And anyone who's watched a movie in their life knows that for the time they're watching the movie, they've shut their life off. And in fact, that's why people like movies. They want to shut their life off, especially if their life isn't nice, or they want to do a hobby, a sport. They want to do something to forget their weekday work and all the problems of their work and so forth, or whatever problems they're having in life. They want to go do something, do a hobby, watch a movie, go to a restaurant, do something to forget, isn't it? Yes?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, we're with you.
Yes. Yes, you're all there. Yes. I don't know if you're there. I just see your pictures. You could all be sleeping for all I know. So, but we all have this experience. If you have something very important to do, if you have to study, you have to take a test, pretty much nothing else goes on during that time other than what you have to do, isn't it? You have important work. Or if you're studying very deeply, if you're listening to class very deeply. When we were in school, we had to prepare for finals, and we couldn't do anything else. We had to turn all the social media off, go into our room, lock the door, close the curtains, just turn the world off, don't talk to anybody, and focus. This is exactly what we need to do when we chant. And if we do that, if we can do that well, then you will find hearing the mantra will be the natural byproduct. You don't even have to struggle to hear. You don't have to put all your energy into controlling your mind and hearing, because naturally when you're chanting, if there's nothing else going on in your mind, the Maha Mantra is there. So we have a guided meditation I want you to hear, which is a little meditation, and I can send this to you also, about how to prepare for your japa by just detaching from your life. So we're going to play it. I just want to make sure you can hear it. I'm 99.9999% certain you can hear it, but I'll start playing it. I'll just play it for a second, and then just make sure you can hear it. Whoa, 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 whoa. Make sure you can hear it, and then we'll start it. Okay? Is that okay?
No, we cannot hear.
Okay, wait. Hasn't started yet. Can you hear that?
No, nothing.
You didn't hear anything.
No.
Really? Okay, let me fool around. Hold on. Why you wouldn't hear that? Govinda. All right, what about now? Listen now.
Maybe something with the volume or something. We cannot hear anything.
Yes? No?
No.
That is completely weird.
There's something faint in the background, like chanting.
So you're hearing it very quietly. Okay. I'll make it louder. Did you hear that?
Not as yet, no.
That is so strange. We just
Anyone else are hearing? Anyone else are hearing anything? Rajesh Prabhu, Shantavigra from Trinidad. Anybody hearing? Anyway, from Guyana, Suriname.
No, I'm not hearing anything as
that
yet.
is strange because we just did it today. Okay, let me check my system. You're supposed to be hearing through my mixer. One more test.
Our technician are trying from this side also to see if they need to share anything in order for us to hear, but
You can't hear. Okay, this
no.
is I can't explain why you can't hear. This is strange. You can hear me speaking, right?
Clear,
No.
loud and clear. So,
Yeah, this is one of the mysteries of the universe that I don't fully understand because I hear it. This
Can
happened.
I ask where you're playing it from?
What's that?
What unit are you using to play the sound?
It's going off my computer and it's going into a mixer, which I'm speaking into. And I did this earlier today and it was fine. So
If you share sound, would that help?
it's not on my computer.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
all right, I can I can get it off my computer. Let's see. Let's see if it's on this computer. I was playing it off another computer. So it may
I
not
think
be on.
if you go to share screen, there should be an option to share sound from the share when you try to share the screen. There may be an option there to share the sound, I think.
Yeah, I don't think it's on my computer that I have here. Unfortunately. Oh, I have an idea. It's oh, it's on a USB stick. Hold on a second. Don't go away. I'll be right back.
you're right here, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram,
Yeah,
Hare.
okay. We can't do it. There's another way we could try to do it. This is very confusing that I'm hearing it and you're not. Okay, let's try one other way. We'll play it through my microphone. So you're going to have to hear it through my microphone. It's a nice meditation. I could do it, but I'd rather you hear it. Sit comfortably, either in a chair or cross-legged on the floor. Can you hear that clearly?
Yes, Mahatma Prabhu.
Okay, so you can just meditate on this. This is what you can do every morning to prepare yourself. Something meditation like this. Sit comfortably, either in a chair or cross-legged on the floor. We want to come into the present moment, to be mindful of our meditation experience. To do this, we have to unplug from our lives. Imagine the different aspects of your life as cords that are plugged into the wall. And one by one, you're going to unplug your work, your to-do list, your worries, your problems, and anything that's on your mind right now. Pull those plugs out of the wall and come into the present moment. And we want to empty our minds of distractions and unnecessary thoughts. Imagine there is a briefcase next to you, and whatever thoughts you have of the past or the future, put those thoughts in the briefcase and let them remain there during your meditation, knowing that when you finish, you can take those thoughts out of the case. Now be conscious of your breathing. This brings you into the present moment. Be conscious as you breathe out and in, and out and in, and out and in. Be conscious of what you're feeling now. And now we are ready to begin our meditation. So the idea is that often when we chant, we're not present to our chanting, as I was saying before. So this meditation is something you can do. You could do it very quickly before you chant. You can just sit down and whatever going on in your life, you just think, okay, I will detach. You could do this whole thing in 10 seconds. I will detach. Whatever's ever in my mind, I just empty out. I won't worry about it. I'll just put it in a briefcase. When I come back, when I finish, I can take up where I left off. So just like in a relationship in this world, when somebody wants to talk to us about something important, we give our attention to them. And it's offensive if we don't. And if they're speaking to us and we're thinking of something else, then that's offensive to them. It's disrespectful. It's a kind of mindlessness. So in Buddhism, they have something which is called mindfulness, which is, it just basically means that whatever you're doing, you're conscious of. It's not like you do something, you finish, and then you realize you don't even remember doing it. You weren't aware of it. So this little practice, as simple as it sounds, as basic as it sounds, it's very powerful. And I believe this is necessary for all of us before we begin chanting. It's just like clear out this space. And even if you have to finish rounds late at night, it's like put your day to rest. Whatever you have to do, either do it or just put it to rest, and then chant in a mood where you're not thinking about anything else that you have to do or going to do or didn't do. This is very, very important. If you can master this, it's like Prabhupada once said. He said, if you're a brahmachari, it's like 50% or 75%. Your spiritual life is guaranteed to go back to God. He said something like that, which could be kind of discouraging if you're married, but we understand what Prabhupada meant. It's just you've made your life simple. You've cleared everything out, and just by doing that, you have such a better chance of being Krishna conscious. So in the same way, if you clear everything out, then when you chant, then there's nothing really to think about, because you've already made an agreement with your mind that during this time everything goes on hold. Now, I don't know if you have experience with this, but you can make agreements with your mind. You can actually do that. I don't know if you've ever done that, but sometimes we have to work with our mind. My dear mind. I was just talking with a devotee yesterday. He said, in our Vaishnava literature, we have this prayer, my dear mind. And he said, it's amazing if you call your mind, my dear mind. It's like you're making friends with your mind. My dear mind, we're chanting Japa now. So while we're chanting Japa, you can just support me. Don't go anywhere else. Just be supportive. Or you can just take rest while we're chanting, because I don't really need you. The material mind is not necessary when I'm chanting. My dear mind, I'm chanting now. So during this time, we're not going to think about anything else. And I know so many WhatsApp messages are waiting. So many emails are waiting. So many people are expecting me to get back to them. So many things I didn't finish today. So many more things I need to do today. My dear mind, we're not going to think about that now. We're just going to chant. And if you do this, as simple or strange as it sounds, the mind will cooperate if you negotiate with it. If you consciously make an effort before you chant to put yourself in this state. I can't overemphasize it because it's so powerful. And the next thing I want to say is, when you put yourself in this state, it's going to take time to stay in this state. So you might do it before you begin chanting. Then after a while, you start thinking about all these things on your mind, all these things you have to do, all your plans, how you're going to do it, what you're going to eat for breakfast, etc. That we used to find amongst young brahmacharis. A lot of times during japa, they'd actually be thinking about breakfast because they were hungry. We don't eat at night. They've given up sense gratification. So as funny as it sounds, that was sometimes preoccupying their mind during japa. When is this going to be over? I'm hungry. So we know we think of so many things when we're chanting. So while you're chanting, what's going to happen? Well, your mind, which you got under control, now you're present, now you're just hearing, all of a sudden, you know how it works, the mind kind of just slips off, and pretty soon you realize you're off somewhere. And although you're chanting, your mind is totally somewhere else. If you actually can be present to your chanting, you'll connect very deeply with Krishna. You'll feel it more deeply, and it's going to be so much more relishable. So in the beginning, you have to be more conscious, because even though you pull the plugs, okay, we're putting all our, or you can, any analogy you want, put all my life on pause. We'll put this on pause, this on pause, this on pause. All the pause buttons are pressed. All the thoughts in the briefcase. Any analogy that will help you detach. While we're practicing, while we're learning, we're going to go back. We're going to go back We're going to tend to go back because that's our default. That's what we're used to. And then the mind's going to start wandering. So we have to be conscious enough to pull it back. If you do this and you practice it, it'll become more natural. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because it goes together with another concept, which I've realized is very important, and it's very similar to this. It's that there's a certain mood that we want to be in when we're chanting. And the best way I can explain this is that any of you who do deity worship, or even if you just see the deities, when you see the deities, when you go on the altar, you go into a certain mood that here's Krishna, I'm a fallen soul, I'm contaminated. And so there's a sense of respect, awe, and reverence. It's a sense that I need to be careful, I need to be clean, I need to be punctual, I need to be particular, isn't it? When you go on the altar, there's a certain mood. Now I'm dressing the deities, I'm bathing the deities. So whatever on your mind that is going to get in the way of that, you naturally just let it go because now you have to focus on the deities. You don't have your phone with you. You're not sending messages while you're dressing the deities. You're not talking to the person next to them about what they had for dinner last night. You're not gossiping. You're very focused. It's a mood. It's easy to understand because we do this. Even if you're doing worship at home, still, when you're dealing with your deities, it's a slightly different mood. And you know what that mood is, that here's Krishna, I'm dealing with Krishna. So I have to be in the right mood. We all know that. Yes? Yes. It's natural. The difference is, or the problem is, when we chant japa, most of us don't go into that mood. Although, or kirtan, maybe more in kirtan. But when we chant japa, Krishna's name is the Nam Avatar. It's the incarnation for this age. Right? Correct? Yes, Krishna is the avatar. He's also the Nama Rupa, the form of the name. Just like you have a form or wood or stone, this is the form in the name. So Prabhupada said that Krishna appears in his name. It really shouldn't be any different for us than Krishna appearing in the deity on the altar when the curtains are open. That's interesting. He said you should feel the same way. So what I feel is a problem for many devotees is that although when they worship the deities, there's definitely a shift in consciousness. I'm on the altar, I'm worshiping Krishna. Everything must be done right, carefully. I have to be conscious. I have to be devotional. But when we chant japa, we don't always have that mood. We don't always think in the same way when we should think in the same way. So you can call this the meditator's mood, the japa chanter's mood. You can call it whatever you like, but just to remind yourself or remember that when I chant japa, when I put my hands on my bead bag, it's like, as soon as I touch my bead bag, it's like I've just walked on the altar of the holy name. But for many of us, it's just like we put our hands in our bead bag and nothing changes. And it's just the mind is in the same gear. The heart and the emotions are in the same gear. Everything's in the same gear. And so when we chant, it's not translating properly to what we're doing. We haven't made the shift. It's like our whole life is going a certain way. We're taking care of business. And then we start chanting and the mood's basically the same. Have you ever experienced that? Or it's just like you put your hands in your beads and nothing changes. It's like, right? It's just,
Yes,
so
yes.
if you did a frequency on your heart, you'd see your heart's kind of like in the same place. Now maybe after you finish chanting, it's changed a little bit, but it's unfortunate if you have to chant 8 rounds to get into that mood, isn't it? So what we said in the beginning, unplugging, it's the beginning of entering that mood. And the next stage is actually is when we fully enter the mood, there's a consciousness that now I'm connecting with Krishna, I'm worshiping Krishna's name, I'm praying to Krishna, this is a connection, I'm connecting, this is a relationship. And I want to explain something about what the Maha Mantra means, because I think a lot of us have not deeply understood it. And when we deeply understand what the Maha Mantra means, we can more easily and more deeply enter this mood. So I want to explain how Prabhupada explained it and then elaborate on it, and I think this can help us tremendously. So we all know that Prabhupada said, chanting the holy name is a prayer to Krishna to engage me in service. And we all know that Prabhupada said, it's like a child crying for his mother. So you put it together, it's like, I'm crying for service. But as funny as it sounds, a lot of us have service, like too much service. So I'm chanting for service. I better stop chanting, I have too much service this week, right? Too much. If I chant, I'll have too much. So this week I don't chant because I don't want to, I have too much already. No, it's not like that. When we say we're praying for service, we're praying for the mood, the service mood, to serve Krishna as the enjoyer, to be enjoyed by Krishna. We are praying for the desire to serve purely. We are praying for the strength to resist service to Maya. Prabhupada explained all these things. So when we're saying, Krishna, please engage me in your service, it also means, Krishna, please prevent me or protect me from engaging in the service of my senses, the service of Maya, the service of my selfishness, and so forth. And so, really, if you analyze what we're praying for, in a sense, you could say, or part of what we're praying for, you could say, is we're praying to Krishna to protect us from ourselves. Krishna, I am so inclined towards Maya. My mind is wild. I have so many desires. Please protect me from those desires, which is another way of saying, please protect me from myself. I'm dangerous to myself because I'm so conditioned in this material world to serve Maya. Hare Krishna, protect me from that conditioning, and then strengthen my desire to serve you. And so underlying all of this is, Krishna, I want to be a pure devotee. I want to be a pure lover. I want to be a pure servant. I don't want to be a servant of Maya. I don't want to be a servant of my mind, my senses, my selfishness. So it's a prayer. And then Prabhupada's saying, crying. If we're crying, that means this prayer is pretty strong, because you don't cry unless the emotion is very intense. So what are we crying? Prabhupada said, for so long I've served Maya, and Maya has kicked me and slapped me and caused me to suffer. I don't want this anymore. So I just want your service. I want the desire for your service. I want to have a pure heart. I want to be free from my lust, my anger, my greed, all these things. I want to be pure. That's the mood of chanting. That's what it is. That's what it means. And because that's what it means, that's supposed to be what we're feeling. So when we say what the mood is, it's not just a philosophical thing, but it translates into an emotion. That's the emotion of chanting. So have you ever chanted and it looks something like this and it sounds something like this? And I'm going to do a little skit here, but I want you to be thinking about what I just said about, no, actually, let me start. I will try to personify, if I'm in that mood of praying, what it would sound like, what that feeling would sound like, and what it would look like. So I'll demonstrate that. If I was totally in that mood of crying for service, it would look something like, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. So maybe you've chanted that way sometimes, and maybe you've seen others chant that way sometimes. But we've also chanted something that looks more like this. All of us have done this, and it's funny, but it's sad also. And it looks like this. And try to understand, where do you think my mind and emotions are, and what am I communicating to Krishna when I chant like this? What am I communicating? Somebody tell me. What am I telling Krishna? Chanting like that. What am I saying? Somebody, Hari Kirtan, what am I saying? What do you think I'm saying?
I'm not really interested. It's just like, let me get this over with.
Exactly. So we've all done that. We've all been there. And so the next principle to understand is that even though we vow to chant a certain number of rounds, our success is not chanting those number of rounds. And if we think that's our success, then we'll end up chanting 16, I finished, I'm good. No, you're not good, because you weren't really chanting Hare Krishna. You were chanting, I'm bored, let me get it done. That's what was going on in your heart. So, what's the good of chanting 16 rounds, I'm bored, I want to get it done? Every round would just you go further away from Krishna instead of closer. It's like you're offending him. So, isn't it? I mean, think about it, right? I mean, if you did that, Hare Kirtan, you did that with a woman, your wife or your mother, like, you'd be divorced like in 10 seconds. I don't want to spend time with, your wife says, let's spend time together. Why want to spend time with you? You're boring. I'll sit in the same room with you for 2 hours and you can clock it as time together, but I'll totally ignore you. So we don't want to clock in 16 rounds and ignore Krishna. It's not what we're asked to do. So we want to understand that it's not about the number. It is about the number because we've taken a vow, but ultimately it's not about the number. It's about the mood. It's about connection, right? And so I often say, I could give you 16,000 counterfeit dollars. You want them? And you'll say, Prabhu, could you just give me 16 real dollars and keep your 16,000 counterfeit? Yeah. So good. How many counterfeit rounds have you chanted in your life? 16,000? What are you going to put in the bank with counterfeit rounds? You want to put in the bank real rounds, right? Rounds where you're in the mood. So as we were saying, that you prepare by disconnecting from your life. Then after you disconnect, you want to prepare by meditating on what is the mood, what am I actually doing now that I'm chanting? Am I just chanting to get my round, or am I actually chanting to bring me strength, or praying to Krishna to help me overcome some problem, some anartha, praying to give me power to do my service, pray to give me power to be steady, pray to help me become more pure in my chanting, more pure devotee. That's what's going on. And when you do that, Krishna reciprocates. So now imagine every morning, imagine all of you have a little room, a lot of Hindus, I don't think devotees so much, a lot of Hindus have these little rooms called the deity room or the God room or whatever they call it. Isn't it? Or I guess in your country, some of them just have it outside, the little Lord Shiva, right? Hanuman outside, little kumkum and incense, and right? He's covered with dirt and dust and whatever, pour some water, whatever. But imagine there was a room and Krishna was actually in that room, and every morning you could sit down and talk to Krishna. And you were just sitting there, oh, this is so boring. Do I have to do this? 2 hours? You would never do that. But you would talk to Krishna and say, Krishna, why don't I love you? What's wrong with me? You're so attractive, and I'm so foolish. I'm so this and that. Why don't I love you? Please help me. I have these anarthas. I'm so envious. I'm so this. Please help me. Can you help me? That's what we would be doing, right? We'd be glorifying Krishna. Krishna is so amazing, so beautiful. Place your feet in my heart, and so forth. Like that's what we'd be doing. So we have to think that way also when we're chanting, that Krishna is there and we're talking to him. And what are we saying? That's really important. Ask yourself, every morning when I chant, what am I telling Krishna? Am I telling Krishna, I don't like this? This is boring. I'd rather be doing kirtan, or I'd rather be eating pakoras now rather than chanting japa. What am I telling him? I want to tell one story, and then I think we should take some questions, because this is very preliminary ABCs of what I've come to realize over the years as extremely important to improve our japa. So I'll just add a story which will illustrate this. You may have heard this story before. I've told it before. In 1976 in Mayapur, the devotees did something which Prabhupada didn't like. It was kind of stupid. I don't know the idea. But the devotees thought we should invite kirtan groups from all over Mayapur and have a competition, and then we will have our own kirtan groups. And when I was young, they had this thing called Battle of the Bands. The different bands would play and they would get judged. And now, you know, they have American Idol and this and that. So it was kind of like Kirtan Idol, who's the best kirtanier, Battle of the Bands. And so the kirtan groups would go, they do their kirtan, they'd be judged. It's kind of artificial. How can you judge the sincerity and devotion of someone? You know, it's like, Prabhupada didn't like it. But anyway, they had professional groups, and a professional group means that you hire this group and they come to your wedding or your funeral or your event, and they chant. They'll come and chant Hare Krishna, and they're really good musically, externally. You may have heard these groups, and they're very stylized in Bengal. You know, they have their way of chanting. You know, long, Krishna, like, oh, and it's apparently a style that people like. You've probably heard it, right? Hare, and Prabhupada didn't like that at all. You know, it's too showy. Anyway, Prabhupada heard one group, and he said something extremely significant for us. They were doing kirtan, and he heard them over the loudspeakers, and they were doing their showy kirtan. And the thing is, these people do it for money. They're chanting as a business. And if they win the competition, also, that's prestige. Oh, we won the Mayapur competition. Hire us for your next wedding. You know, you can put that on your website. You can be branded, you know. We were number one in Mayapur competition. Hire us. We're the best. So when Prabhupada heard them, he said they were chanting Hare Krishna, and he said, actually, they're not chanting Hare Krishna. They're chanting money, money, money. And so why is this important? Because they were actually chanting Hare Krishna with their lips, but inside they were thinking, if we win, money, 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 we get money. Or maybe they were going to get money if they win the competition. Or maybe it was just good branding and they would get more jobs. But Prabhupada did not hear, Krishna, please engage me in your service. Prabhupada heard, give me money, give me money, give me money. There was a song like that, I think, once. Give me money, it's all I want. So that's actually what they were singing. It just sounded like they were singing Hare Krishna. So I want to throw this question out to you, and I want you to ask yourself when you're chanting, what are you actually chanting? Or another way of saying it, what's in your mantra? Like, what's in your mantra? Is what's in your mantra, oh, Krishna, please engage me. Krishna, please help me become free from Maya. Krishna, make me a pure devotee. Or what else is in your Maya? And we're going to put something up on Facebook. Other things that could be in your mantra, like, I wonder if everyone's chanting as nicely as I am. Why doesn't everybody look at me chant? Because I'm such a good chanter. When is this chanting going to get done? When am I going to get over with this? I hate this. I'm so bored. You know, you have to think, what's in your mantra when you're chanting? Because if in your mantra is something like, this is boring, I'm the best chanter, nobody chants as good as I do. You're chastising people in your mind while you're chanting for how poorly they're chanting. That's so funny, isn't it? How distracted is that? But you understand what I'm saying. And if you just ask yourself, well, what's in my mantra? What's actually in it? Am I actually chanting Hare Krishna, or am I chanting money, money, or I'm the best, or I don't like this, or I have to get this done, or whatever? So this is very important, because if we don't understand this, then we think, well, I chanted 16 rounds of Ram. When's this going to get over? When's it going to get over? You can hear in the voice what's being said, can't you? You can hear it in the voice. The emotion. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. So I have a joke for you. Imagine the way you chant is the way a guy would propose to a woman. And we'll, instead of saying, we're going to say, would you marry me? Would you marry me? I really love you. You're so beautiful. We make such a nice couple. She'd throw a pie in your face. Say, what do you, get out of here. Isn't it? So imagine if you're chanting like that, what is Krishna thinking? Krishna's watching you chant and he's thinking, who is this joker? What's he doing? He's not even connected with the mantra. He's just trying to get it done. He's not even pronouncing properly. He's polishing his shoes while he's chanting. He's, making his bed. He's cooking sweet rice with his left hand and chanting with his right. There was a joke a devotee said. He said, since I've become a devotee, my left hand has big muscles from all the sweet rice I cook while I chant japa. So, have you heard that joke before? Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah. Hare Krishna, you ever do that? This isn't japa. Japa is being present, it's being focused, it's concentrating. So, are we going for another 7 minutes or another 37 minutes? Prabhupada, Dave? I forgot what we were scheduled for. An hour or an hour and a half?
Hour and a half, Prabhu. Next 37 minutes or so we have at least.
So, I think you understand what I'm saying. I would like to see if you have any questions now, because often we get questions and we go way over time. The average class I give questions are like over a half hour. I don't know if that will be true of you, but I'd like to stop now just to give you the chance to ask questions about ideally about what we've spoken about, but you can also ask questions about other things in relation to japa.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. If anyone have any questions, you can go right ahead.
You want to, raise your hand and then we'll unmute you or unmute yourself or you can also put it in the chat as well.
Yeah, everyone can unmute themselves and you can ask. In the meantime, Mahatma Prabhu, I was thinking that after 49, 50 years, you have been moving from one experience to the other. I wouldn't say level, but one experience to the other in both your individual life of japa and chanting the holy name, and also being so involved in teaching japa techniques.
Yes.
Share some of your personal experience of that will be enlightened for us, or information for us, that how you would have realized the different levels or experiences as you go on in the process.
Yeah.
Especially in relation to the mind, because I remember your japa session retreat in Guyana, and it is along the same line. You're emphasizing the mind's activities and flickering nature, yeah, and all that.
One of the things that comes out of any workshop where you're spending, like we did retreats, we spend like, let's say 5 days, all day up till 9 in the evening, and we're all living together. And when you spend that much time focusing on one thing, you really get to experience a deeper level of whatever that is. And in this case, of course, it's japa, it's the holy name. And when you experience that deeper level, then you start to realize that doing this is so powerful. It's so transformational. And it's exactly what I need. It's exactly what's missing in my life, because I could see in my life certain weaknesses, certain contaminations, certain areas where I'm not inspired. But when, during this retreat, when I'm chanting every day, those problems go away just by the power of the holy name. And like, we know that intellectually, but when we don't do it and we don't experience it, we tend to forget that. So when you're having that experience with japa, or it could be with forgiveness, or it could be any workshop, but specifically with japa, when you have that experience, the realization that you get, and everybody gets that, is I'm not giving enough priority to my japa. And I don't mean priority just by giving it space in a sacred space, a quiet place, and early in the morning. I also mean giving it priority internally, because you can give it priority externally and not give it as much priority as it needs internally. It's like for example, what we were talking about, how you could not be in the proper mood. So you're giving it priority, but in your mind, you're doing something else. And so whatever you're thinking of that's the priority at that time, isn't it? You know, like I'm chanting japa, but I'm thinking, oh, today we're going to college, and you know, we need someone to cook the halva, and so-and-so's sick and he can't cook it, and I'm working out the schedule in my mind. So actually that service now becomes more important than your japa. That becomes the priority at that time. So we all realized that we weren't giving japa enough priority externally, internally, and therefore we weren't experiencing the full power of the holy name. And at the retreat we were experiencing it. So everything I said today becomes much easier to do when you internally give japa more priority, because more priority means more attention, it means more energy, it means more importance, it means this becomes what in the overall scheme of my life, this becomes the thing that I really, really need to master more than anything if I'm going to be Krishna conscious. So when you have that kind of priority, it becomes much easier, or you could say it becomes natural to chant well, because you realize by experience how important it is. Now, the problem is, and this is pretty serious, so everyone please pay attention to this. The problem is, it works the opposite way. If you don't give it priority, the quality of your chanting will be less, your experience will be less. So as your experience is less, you give it less importance because you think it doesn't do much, because it's not doing much for you, because you're not chanting well, because you gave it less priority. So then it becomes a vicious cycle. So then you end up nam 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 Krishna 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 nam nam, because you feel like, well, whether I try or not, my rounds I've never chanted good rounds anyway, and I've never really experienced any kind of real elevation, revelation, purification, killing of anarthas very much from chanting. So if I just chant like that, it's kind of the same as, you know, I always chant bad. I don't know what is good. And so that becomes a vicious cycle, and then it just feeds in more bad chanting, and then it becomes a habit. Whereas if you chant well, it has the opposite effect. And then you want to do it well the next day. You give it more priority because you're getting more from it. And I'll guarantee you, any devotee, I guarantee you, any devotee who you see who's consistently very absorbed in japa, like every morning, they just turn off the world, they're totally absorbed. You can see they're not really physically present there. You see that. When you see that, you know they've given complete priority to their japa. That's their life. That's number one. They realize that this is the Yuga Dharma. This is what's going to make the difference. This is the only thing we vow to do at initiation. They've put its importance on a pedestal. And that's why they're chanting that way. And pretty much we can say, when you're chanting or you see somebody chanting, japa is not a high priority in their life. And so it becomes a vicious cycle. Bad japa produces more bad japa. Good japa produces more good japa. So I think that's important to realize. The other thing I want to say, that I realized this long ago, and I probably spoke about this in Guyana, because I used to speak about this a lot, because it was something that was just struck me when I first started chanting, first started doing japa workshops, is that the way habits are formed is by repetitive action. So anything you do repeatedly becomes a habit, and habit is defined as a unconscious competence. If you know how to drive a car, you don't have to concentrate. You can just drive. You can talk. You can change the radio stations. You can do so many things. I even learned the whole 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita in Sanskrit while driving on a freeway in America. There's no cars on the freeway, but you don't need to concentrate much once you know. That's what a habit is. It's an unconscious competence. So the problem is, we're chanting japa every day. And so by doing something every day, it becomes a habit. The problem is, if you don't do it well, that becomes your habit. It's the way you do it. It's the way you've practiced to do it. But the good news is you can change it. And the good news is that if you do it well every day, for a few months, it becomes a good habit, and that becomes the new way you do it. So what I feel is one of the most important things as a take home from any japa session is to realize that you can do things to improve your japa. You can do things to get more in the mood. And if you do them and you consciously work on that every day, after a while, you'll just naturally, when you chant, you'll just unplug. You'll immediately go into the mood of prayer, and it'll just become the most important thing in your life at that moment, and your japa will be good every day, and it'll happen very naturally. So that's really important to understand, because when it doesn't happen that way and it happens the other way, then it just it can get worse. Many devotees, I don't know if any of you have experienced this, but many devotees have realized their japa was better 10 years ago than it is now. They let it just slide down through bad habits. So those are some big takeaways that I've gotten over the years from my own japa and from seeing other people chant.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Radhavalabha, Prabhu, you have a question?
Yes, I do. So basically, when we think about chanting and chanting purely and chanting seriously, we tend to push away the mind.
Yes.
Now the mind is pretty strong. We know that because that we can be anywhere quickly.
Yes.
However, is there some way to engage the mind in our chanting so that we can have an ally in the chanting of the holy names?
I would say, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, he said, meditate on what the holy name means. But I have another experience, Radha Vallabha, that if you enter the mood of prayer, it will just subside, because emotion is the subtle aspect of the mind. And generally find that thinking and emotion, like high intensity emotion and thinking, don't go together. And when you think a lot, emotion tends to weaken. When you have more emotion, your thinking tends to weaken. So if I meditate on what the holy name means, there are many meanings. Like I'll give you an example, another example. The acharyas have said one of the meanings of the name, and this is what they feel when they're chanting, is, "Oh Krishna, bring my heart to you." It's kind of like make my heart one with you. Let's make us closer, and also let's be one in desire. So let's say you're chanting and that's your mood, say the holy name means Krishna, bring my heart to you. And then you enter that mood, not in the mood of thinking it, but the mood of feeling it. So you actually want to connect with Krishna heart to heart, and you're chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. I want you to do me a favor, experiment tomorrow. Try to get into that mood, or in the mood, Krishna, please engage me, please help me. Some highly intense emotion, try to enter that. And see if that doesn't solve the problem of the mind. The mind will tend to subside when the prayer intensifies and the emotion intensifies. That's my experience. And you rightly said that there's a lot of energy employed in controlling the mind. And I was thinking, I'd rather employ my energy in the emotion of prayer than employ my energy in trying to just get my mind back on track, because I always found when I'm praying deeply, the mind is connected. And another example we have, if we're facing some difficulty in life and we're just chanting intensely, praying to Krishna, we don't know how to deal with it, we don't know what's going to happen, something disastrous could happen. And like with Bhakti Churu Swami, his disciples especially, praying intensely. You can imagine in that intense prayer, their mind wasn't wandering all over the universe. It was just focused on Maharaj and their prayer to Krishna. Right? We just can't imagine they're praying. Their Guru Maharaj may be dying and they're praying, Krishna, please protect them. They're thinking about what they're going to have for breakfast and what they're going to buy and store later. It just doesn't make sense. So that's what I would recommend. And the other point I was making earlier is the point of what I found is, if you begin your japa by detaching, then if you've actually detached from your life, your mind has nothing to think about. And if you actually think about it, if your mind is wandering, it's actually you because you gave it permission. You didn't make any pact with your mind that we're chanting now, and just like, everything stops, put everything on hold. If you don't make that pact, then when you start chanting, your mind's still active because you didn't stop it. You didn't make any agreement. And although that might sound simple, but you can practice that tomorrow. All of you can practice both of these things that I'm telling you about Baba. You can practice for yourself and see if it works. Because the whole point of this workshop is to actually practice it. And if you practice those two things, see what happens. Just totally pull out of your life and see if that doesn't help you control your mind. That's my experience. That it's like automatic. It's like automatic. When you do that, you're disconnected. Your mind is now disengaged. It's got nothing to think of because you pulled your life out. What's it going to think about? You pulled out the plug of what I have to do. You pulled out the plug of your problems, your anxieties, pulled out this plug, that. Now the mind has nothing to do. So it's just going to sit there while you chant. And now you can fully meditate on what the holy name means. Prabhupada, Deva, if you want to do something nice, there's a couple of things you could do. You could have some meetings and get the devotees together and discuss these things and, let everybody try to practice these things for a few days and then share their experience and see how we can refine it, because it could take some days. Maybe after a week you could meet. And then also, a nice thing you can do is you can have buddies. So you can report to your buddy every day, So a very simple thing you can do is, let's say you are my buddy. So I would give you like 5 questions. So let's say my questions would be, did you unplug before you chant Japa? Did you enter into the meaning of Japa? Were you praying during Japa? Did you finish your rounds before this time? Did you get up at this time? Whatever I want to do, I put in the form of question, and I say, call me every night at 8:30 and ask me these questions, and I know you're going to call. So there's a motive, because I don't want to say no. I know Prabhupada Deva is going to call me. I don't want to say, no, I didn't finish my rounds before breakfast. No, I didn't get up early. No, I totally spaced out when I chanted. I don't want to say these things. And even if I say no to every one of those, the first week, the second week, the third week, the fourth week, at some point I'm going to think, I don't want to be saying no. These are the things I want to do. So having buddies is very powerful, or you can do it any way you want. But what we need to do more in our movement is not just hear. We hear so much, especially now during the lockdown. We're all hearing all day. But we need to take what we're hearing and put it into practice. So I would ask all of you, do the unplugging, and then go into the mood. I can send you 2 guided meditations. This one, I can send you a long one and a short one, and I can send you another one called Crying Like a Child, which helps us enter this mood of prayer. And you can practice it this week, and you could all meet in a week and discuss how it's going. And it's really good if you're all on the same page, doing the same thing. That has power, and you can help one another, because otherwise, we hear things that sounds good, but if we don't apply it and we don't have some accountability to apply it, then it's not going to happen. So I'm teaching you today practical things that you can apply, and if you do apply them, it'll work. And you have to practice applying them. And so if you all apply it and then you meet together, some of you may have done it better than others, and you can share how you were able to do it. And then the others who were struggling more say, oh, that's good, I can do that now. And you're just helping one another. So if you send me an email, then I can arrange to send you those meditations, or even a WhatsApp. Maybe I could get them there.
Yes, Prabhu, thank you very much. I will wish that devotees from Trinidad can group up and we can carry on what you would have taught us tonight, and also devotees from Saranam with Paramatma Prabhu. And in Guyana here, we will try to spark up this mood as you're discussing. There's another question there. Hare Kirtan, you want to read it?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. This is
Yes.
from Radha Govinda Mataji from Panama. She's asking, do you think someone can love Krishna even though they don't chant japa? Maybe they're doing other activities of devotional service.
Actually, the symptom of one of the symptoms of love of Krishna is attraction to the holy name. Because as you advance in devotional service, you get to the stage of ruchi, which is taste, then you get to the stage of asakti, which is attraction. So that's it for everything. It's not like I like Krishna, I like your feet, but I don't like your chest. It's not like that. So it's a natural symptom that everything Krishna becomes attractive. And that's what we see practically, that devotees who are advancing, they become more attracted, not just to chanting, but to hearing, to serving, to worshiping the deity and so forth. So no, it is a symptom. But aside from that being a symptom, it's we take a vow when we get initiated. We take a vow to chant. So it's as many devotees have said, it's the only thing we vow to do. So it must be important, right? I mean, nowadays, some gurus say, well, I want you to read Prabhupada's books and never leave ISKCON and so forth. But that's fine. No problem with that. But I'm just saying that that was the only thing Prabhupada asked us to do. So it must be important. So, Satatam Kirtanto Mam, Krishna says, my pure devotees are always chanting. It's a symptom of purity. And a symptom of lack of purity would be we don't like to chant. Is that a bold statement? Did I offend anybody? But it's shastric anyway. If I offended anybody, there's always exceptions. Of course, there's always exceptions. But this is a general principle. Look at Thakur Haridas. Rupa Goswami was saying, I wish I had 1,000 tongues. This chanting is so sweet. It's all a symptom. He wants to chant more. One tongue, can't chant much. 1,000 tongues, I can chant a lot. And Thakur Haridas, I'm sure he had to force himself to stop chanting because he had to eat and sleep. So that was the only reason he stopped. So obviously he has a taste. Okay, another question.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. In the chat, there are two questions. One from Suvas Prabhu from St. Lucia. He's asking, what about setting a particular time of day for my japa? At that time, I turn off everything, my phone, my laptop, etc., preferably in early hours of the morning when there is virtually no distractions.
Yes, perfect. The principle is, well, I guess in St. Lucia, there are not a lot of distractions anyway. So it's not like New York City or anything. So in that sense, it's probably a little easier for you to chant anytime, anywhere. But same in Guyana, I guess, as well. But that's the principle. Less distractions, the better. And I always say, don't chant with your phone on. That's like the 11th offense. I think sometimes when I give initiation, I tell devotees that, the 11th offense, keep your phone off when you chant. It's just anything that's going to distract you is going to minimize your ability to focus on the holy name. But that's the 10th offense. So it's part of the 10th offense having your phone on. I guess we don't have to create an 11th offense. It's also an offense to be inattentive, parenthesis, phone on, while chanting. Yeah, that's, We'll have to change the Padma Purana a little bit for 2020, make it work better. But that's the principle.
Thank you, Prabhu. Another question. When we chant, we ask Krishna to engage us in his devotional service. And Krishna also says, my first mercy shown to my devotee is to take away all of his material opulence. If one has a family with young children and Krishna takes away all material opulence, how can one maintain?
Hare Krishna. Okay. When your guru initiates you, he'll say, don't chant any rounds until your kids are grown up. No, I don't think so. What that means is Krishna will remove anything you're attached to that's an obstacle for you. Krishna will remove it. If it's not an obstacle, he won't have to remove it. So I see Hari, I see the word dhanam in that verse. Dhanam shanai, he'll take away wealth, is anything that's an obstacle. And so if wealth or so forth is needed for your livelihood and for your service, Krishna's not going to take it away. You'll be okay, don't worry. And actually, when you're qualified, Krishna will give you so much. You know what Prabhupada said? He said, when I started preaching, Krishna took everything away from me. And then he said, well, Krishna wanted to see what I would do. And in a sense, for Prabhupada said, because I had a family, if Krishna didn't take everything away from me, I was just thinking my family, we'll all do it together and we'll make a lot of money, and then when I get the money, we can preach. But Krishna had another plan. He didn't want to do it that way. Even Prabhupada's preaching in India, he started the center, League of Devotees. It wasn't working. And then we can understand that Krishna wanted Prabhupada to come to America. So sometimes when Krishna wants something from you, then he'll make an arrangement. And then Prabhupada said, then Krishna gave me everything. So he took it away, and then he gave him everything. And so took away everything. Then Prabhupada's on his way to spread Krishna consciousness. He passed the test, took everything away, still didn't deviate, and then Krishna gave him everything. So I don't think we should ever be afraid that Krishna will do something that will cause us to be destitute. Krishna will protect you. So that's a symptom of surrender, that he'll maintain and protect you. But if there's an obstacle that could cause you to lose your Krishna consciousness, or Krishna wants you to do a service that's difficult and you're reluctant to do, then he may pull the plug out of something in your life. But it would only be to bring you closer to him. And so Krishna is not, his business is not to make mothers with children poor. It's not like, fun for him to do that. So don't worry. You can
Thank you,
chant.
Prabhu.
It's okay. You're welcome.
Another question is here. It's a very long question. So the devotee is asking, please tie in the seriousness of avoiding offenses to devotees to the process of chanting japa. And they emphasize that point, and they're asking, if all the progress made in chanting japa gets rooted out with Vaishnava aparad, does japa improve with addressing this Vaishnava aparad also?
Oh, definitely. The principle is that Krishna is in his name. Krishna and his name are not different. That's the principle. So the way Bhaktivinoda Thakur explained this, the offense to devotee, is that, because we try to understand, well, how is it if I offend a devotee, I'm offending the holy name? It's kind of like, how does that work? I throw the ball here and it ends up over there, It's like, it doesn't make sense. So he said, no, but Krishna's in the heart, the devotee's in the heart of Krishna. Like we hear this in the Bhagavatam, I think 6th canto. Krishna says, Sadhunamani down 12. The sadhus are in my heart, and I'm in their heart. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, if I offend a devotee, it hurts Krishna. Just like if I offend your mother, your wife, your son, anyone dear to you, if I offend them, it directly hurts your heart. And so Krishna is no different. And say, but how does it offend the holy name? And say, okay, I can understand it offends Krishna. How does it offend the holy name? Because Krishna is the holy name. The holy name is Krishna. So when I offend a devotee, it offends Krishna's heart. Krishna is the holy name. So I've offended Krishna. And so I'm praying, Krishna, let me love you. At the same time, I'm offending your devotee, which is then hurting you. So it's a complete contradiction. So we have to take it more seriously, because it can damage our ability to come to the pure stage of chanting. If we're still committing offenses, this is one of 10. We have 10 ways to commit offenses. This is one, but this is a pretty big one, pretty devastating one. But I think there's another way of looking at it also. We could look at it from the perspective, not just if I commit offenses, then it'll harm my chanting, but if I am committing offenses, it means there's something wrong with my chanting. So you can look at it both ways. It's like, you get hit coming, you get hit going. Why am I criticizing? Well, I must not be chanting purely. It's causing me to criticize. And then if I criticize, it affects my chanting. And then my chanting's not pure, so then I criticize more. And it's just like this vicious cycle. So I would always look at myself. If I have a tendency to be critical, I would look at what's going on in my own heart and why I'm doing that. And not only is it bad for my chanting, it's bad for everything. And it's harming Krishna's heart. Why would we want to do that? So yes, it's a good question. It is a very important thing to realize, and we can't take it lightly. Now, we might think, well, I don't offend senior devotees, I just offend younger devotees, so it's not a problem. Who cares about them? They're not important. Okay. Maybe they're not as important as a senior devotee, and maybe the offense isn't as bad, but still, it's a mentality. And I've seen if you offend the little ones, you end up offending the big ones also. Have you ever seen that? Like someone who's critical, it eventually like it finds its way all the way up to the top because it's just the way criticism goes. The ones at top are the biggest targets, and they're the most juicy targets. When you hit the arrow on the one on the top, you get more sense gratification from your criticism than just criticizing bhakta. Bhakta who do you have? What kind of names do you have here? Bhakta Anand. Criticizing Bhakta Anand, spend a devotee for a week. There's not a lot of pleasure in that, but when you criticize, some about GBC or something, then your criticism gratification is peaking on the meter, isn't it? So you think it's an innocent thing. I just criticize the new bhaktas because they don't know what they're doing. No, so as a topic that doesn't relate directly to chanting, just as a general topic, we should be very cautious, very, very cautious about this. And it's a good question also because everything I told you to try to do to improve your chanting, it's not going to work if you're making the other 10 offenses. Like, okay, I'll be in the mood, but I just offended 100 devotees yesterday. You're not going to be in any mood. You won't be able to be in the mood. You won't be able to hear the holy name. You won't be able to be present because you'll lose all attraction for chanting by all the offenses you make. So, it's a good point because we can't just think by technique, I'll improve my japa. And then in my life, I won't be Krishna conscious or I'll be critical of other devotees. And then when I chant japa, I just go into technique. And then the rest of the day, I'm not very Krishna conscious. It can't work that way. It has to work within a 24-hour cycle synergistically. Everything has to be there. So thank you for that question. It's very good.
Thank you very much, Mahatma Prabhu. I think we get more than what we bargained for this evening. We are forever indebted to you with your practicality and your style in encouraging devotees to increase and improve in their japa. After all, I was thinking, why do we come to the Hare Krishna movement? We exactly came to the Hare Krishna movement to chant the holy name, but then after some time, it seems that we need so much encouragement on the path.
Yes.
So we are experienced, as I said in the beginning, we all over the world, no matter which corner of the world we are in our lifetime experiencing ISKCON, the Hare Krishna movement that just started 54 years ago. And within our lifetime also, we are experiencing world pandemic, coronavirus, which curtail many of our activities, but should improve or serve to improve our japa. So in closing, Prabhu, any final thoughts you want to give to the devotees?
Yeah. Get a picture of me pointing at you with my bead bag. It says, I'm watching you. I'm watching you. I'm watching to see if you have applied everything I said. So you can at least this week, maybe for the next 2 weeks, when you chant japa, you can think of me a little bit and think, okay, what did he say? If he was sitting down next to me, You know, what would he be thinking? What would he be saying? What would he want me to do? You know, because we need some kind of accountability. That just helps us. So any way we can get accountability, I would be happy if you all apply these things and you benefit from it. And of course, these are just ideas that I've given you. You all have your own intelligence, intuition, and you can adapt so many ways to improve your japa. And that's what happens when you give it priority. Krishna helps you. And these are just some ways you could use. Maybe it works for you, maybe it doesn't. Try it out. But the point is, there are tools that you could use and attitudes you can use to improve your japa, and we should be doing it and not just trying to get our rounds done and think I'm successful. Hey, Prabhu, we have 16 BMWs at our temple, and none of them work. Oh, great, great, good news. How about we get one that works and throw away the other 16, you know, like 16 rounds that don't work. Congratulations. I'll see you in the next life. You know, that's not what we want. So I think that's a very important principle. It's not about the number. It's about the quality and the dedication and devotion. And if we do this, so many things will happen. I think this last point about the criticism is very important. And I just want to emphasize that if we're doing something that is not right, it could be criticism, it could be that I'm very envious, it could be that I have a problem with lust, it could be so many things. We have to ask ourselves, am I committing offense to the holy name if this is how I'm feeling? If I'm very critical or very envious or very jealous or very greedy or very lusty, is this an indication that my japa is not good? And I would say in most cases, if not all, yes, at least to some degree. Because if you chant good japa, these things won't be there. I want to end with a story. This is a beautiful story. The devotee wrote a letter to Prabhupada, and you know, he was having all these problems that we're talking about. Envious, weak, you don't want to get up, don't, you know, have problems with devotees. Just like, you know, the endless list of problems that we really shouldn't have if we're doing well in Krishna consciousness. But they tend to be quite common. So Prabhupada looked at the list and he said, I could see from this list you're committing offense to the holy name. And my understanding was, it's like if there's some doctors, if you go to their office and they look at you, they can tell you, just by looking at your face, they can tell you what your diet is. You know, they look at your face and body and go, you probably eat a lot of sugar and a lot of white flour and a lot of butter and a lot of fried foods and a lot of chili and a lot of rice. And they'll say, how do you know? Because I can look at you, I can see it. Because you would look differently and your body would be different if you were eating more vegetables and fruits and so forth. So that's the way I took this. Prabhupada looked at him and he made his diagnosis that if you were chanting nicely, you wouldn't have these problems. And because you have these problems, it must mean you're not chanting properly. You're making offenses. So I think that's an important principle. Look at your own life, and if you find yourself, oh, I'm really struggling with this, or I've been struggling with this for 20 years, I'm still struggling with it, maybe you have to go back to the basics. Maybe you've just never really gone deeply enough into your japa, because the holy name is so powerful. It can remove those things, and that this could be a symptom for you to reflect on. Maybe my japa isn't good, and that's why I have these problems. And that's the point I was making with the criticism. If I can't control my criticism, maybe it's because I'm not chanting well. It could be other things, but that is somewhere to at least ask myself, could it be that? And on that happy note, we can end class. And I can have a little prasadam now and finish my rounds. I like chanting. You know, oh, here's my realization, Prabhupada Deva.
Yes.
I started getting extremely busy and giving lots of classes and I have lots of projects and trying to do it all, that I got into this pattern. Never before in my life did I ever get in this pattern where I'd have half my rounds done in the day, and I didn't have, like, till now, I'll finish the other half. So I started doing this, and normally you'd think, oh, the rounds at night would be bad and so forth. But it's interesting because the night is like everything is finished, so now there's nothing to do, right? As long as you're awake, there's nothing to finish. One night, this is embarrassing to say, but one night I started my rounds at 10 o'clock and I chanted till midnight. And it was that rest that night and the next morning were amazing. And I never chant at night. I usually finish all my rounds in the morning. And now for like the last few months, I've actually purposely saved rounds for night because it's just in the morning after chanting at night, it's amazing. And the sleeping is amazing. So maybe something you all may want to experiment with, like, save 4 rounds or chant an extra 4 rounds, like half hour before you go to sleep and just chant and see. And I become attached to it. And I can finish my rounds. I go, no, I'm not going to finish. And I know generally, Prabhupada said, finish them all in the morning. So I'm not going to finish. I'm going to save 4 for tonight. Before I go to bed, I want to chant for a half hour. It's a nice experience. Of course, you could chant 16 and then chant more. That's there also. Anyway, I wanted to share that with all of you. And Hare Krishna to you. Nice to see all of you. Nice to be able to fly into Guyana with one click of a button.
Free.
Yeah, and for free. Yeah, we save a lot of money. Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Mahatma Prabhu. Thank you for your time. It would have been a pleasure for us in Guyana and Trinidad, Suriname, Panama, St. Lucia, Barbados, the whole Caribbean, actually. Devotees are plugged in. It's quite amazing what coronavirus done to us. It transformed our life. We never actually thought we could have got this. Without a ticket, we can get your association.
Yeah, it's nice.
So we hope to have you back sometime in the future. We will go right ahead into Janamastami, Balaram appearance, Prabhupada appearance, Radhastami. Maybe in September we will check on you and see how we are coming, and we'll have another session again.
Okay, if your Japa doesn't improve, I'll never give another class. I'll be too discouraged.
Thank you for the challenge. Thank you.
I want to get some good reports. You report to Prabhupada Deva your realizations. Report to me, and hopefully good news. And if the news is good, then we'll continue. Okay.
Well, send those information you have for us to Sachi Sutta Prabhu.
I'll make a note of it. Okay, I will. I have
the Sachi Sutta is a brahmacharya, the temple here. He will circulate it among the devotees.
Okay, I will send a letter to my secretary, and then she'll send it in a way that's easy for you to access.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank all the devotees. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Harinam Prabhu ki jai.
Jai.